Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Kelly Dalton, and I'm joined by my colleague, Ann Achel, who unfortunately is just having a little bit of technical difficulties at the moment. But today we would like to share with you our Spark idea that resulted in a pilot program that integrated virtual service and leadership for student development and community engagement. So I would love to know who is in the room. If you wouldn't mind just typing in the chat box really quick your name and where you are, either what organization or institution you're with or where geographically you are in the world. We'd love to get a feel for who is joining us today. And I can look at the chat box. All right, perhaps our colleagues are not able to type in the chat box, and that's okay. So we'll just go on to the next slide. All right, so what we'd like to do is begin with sharing a little more with you about Marymount University, the two offices that Ann and I represent, that we oversee, and the context that sparked our idea for a co-curricular certificate program that was grounded in the social change model for student leadership development, along with its development of the program and the implementation. We'll end by sharing some samples of student products from the certificate program, discuss some of our lessons learned, and gather ideas, hopefully from you as well, about enhancing and expanding this type of program. Next slide, please.
Hey.
All right, so what is or who is Marymount University? So we are located in Arlington, Virginia, which is just right across the river from Washington, D.C. So it's a Catholic institution that's guided by the traditions of the Religious of the Sacred Heart of Mary. This was a group of sisters that originated in France that came over to the United States and were pretty radical for their time in developing educational programs for women, and particularly single women with children. Our mission emphasizes intellectual curiosity, service to others, and global perspective. And we were just recognized as a Hispanic serving institution, the first one in Virginia, which we are pretty proud of. We have about 3,000 students, a mix of undergrad and grad, and most are commuters, particularly from the area. And then we have about a 20% international student population. So that's who we are. And then I'm the director for the Saints Center for Service, which helps to coordinate and facilitate service opportunities. We use the word service here at Marymount, but also to develop those long-term relationships with our community partners and help connect them to different resources at the institution and vice versa. And then Ann Achel, who I think is your volume working yet?
Can you hear me?
No. So Ann and I work closely together. She is a senior director for the Office of Student Transition, Engagement, and Leadership. So her and I work together very closely and on a regular basis, and I'll talk about that a little more. So next slide, please. So it is a natural fit for leadership and community engagement to be entwined, as you probably know. In fact, you might notice that these two offices are combined at many higher education institutions, and there are a growing number of undergraduate majors actually being offered in this field. Ann and I share similar values around the role of community engagement and leadership development, and that the guiding light of our work is to support student development into active participants in society with a strong commitment and responsibility to work with others towards leadership for a better world. So that's kind of our overall guiding light that we have. So our offices work closely together, but we had never developed a formalized program that integrated our two offices with a shared philosophy. So by focusing on leadership within a community engagement context, we wanted to offer a program that empowered students to become active global citizens who create positive change. So what does that even mean? So, the shared philosophy that we have incorporates the idea that servant leadership kind of moves away from the notion that leadership is associated with a position of power, which is all of this is probably not new to you, but it is new to many of our students. And we like to situate the student in a partnership within a community or an organization that's focused on mutuality and reciprocity, so going both ways. Community engagement then moves away from the notion that service is equated to more one-sided charity type events, and encourages students to become integral community members that focus on active citizenship. So this is always a challenge, particularly for college students when time and resources can be extremely limited. It's a privilege to be able to volunteer, to work for free. Our idea for this program was for students to develop an awareness of and practice of integrating community engagement across other areas of their life. So that was one of the key themes throughout this is how do you integrate this into who you already are, who you want to be, and what you do. And lastly, so COVID obviously has significantly changed the way that we do everything. This is especially true in higher education. So overnight, students went from having their typical college experience, so living on campus, taking classes with friends, attending sporting events, eating in the dining hall, having roommates, right? All these things, to being alone on their laptops. So we wanted to develop a program that engaged students online while providing the flexibility of synchronous or asynchronous participation. And this is relatively new to both of us, so our idea was to develop a program that somehow fit all of these needs. Next slide, please. So we had two overall models that we used for our conceptual framework that'll pop up in a second. And one is the social change model for leadership development. It's specifically focused on college students and their leadership development. And then the active citizen continuum, which is from the alternative break program. And this really kind of set the stage for how we developed the modules and how we engaged the students. So the social change model for leadership development kind of goes through a series of exploring your individual values, going into what is it like with different group values? How do you have controversy with civility? What does that look like in practice? How do you collaborate with others? How do you find a common purpose when you're working on something? And then all the way up to societal or community values, which focuses on citizen. How are you a citizen in the different communities that you identify with? And then the active citizen continuum is really nice for this because it helps you kind of situate yourself along a continuum of how involved you are in a community. And I like this because the active citizen, we talk about this with our students, and that it helps them to visualize and to think about how do I integrate this across my life. So it's not something that's just an additional add-on or something to check off on my to-do list. It's a part of what I am and what I do. So those were the two frameworks that we used that guided our sessions. Oh, finally, sorry. It must be a little bit of a delay, but everybody popped up. So we have someone from Ecuador studying their doctorate in Brussels. We have a grad student visiting us from UC Davis in California. We have someone visiting us from Brazil right now, someone from Miami-Dade College, and someone with a question of, can we put the PowerPoint in a presentation format? So I will see if Anne can go ahead and do that. And we'll see if that will work. And we appreciate, of course, you being patient with us while we work through some of these technical difficulties. We'll see if we can pop that back up for you. Perfect. Thank you, Anne. So the overall goal was to tap into our students' passions and support them in researching a topic that connected to other aspects of their life. We wanted to show them that community engagement work isn't just an additional thing on your checklist to do, that it can be integrated into your major, your career goals, your family life, your friendships, and just your overall way of being. And so the program was implemented into two sections. The first was a synchronous 6-week series of workshops that incrementally built on each other and focused on the components of the social change model that I just shared before. And it included modules and reflection prompts that targeted that individual, group, and societal values. And all the sessions were recorded and available to students who needed to complete the series asynchronously for whatever reason they had. And then the second phase of the project focused on individual social change projects. So students were charged with creating a research project that delved into a social issue within a particular community and then to present findings to their peers. So students received individual and group mentorship and feedback throughout their research and were encouraged to create a final product that best suited their creativity needs. I was hoping to get some vlogs or some blog posts or different things. Most students wrote a paper, which was great, but they did have the option to have creative expression and how they wanted to share the information that they found. And because this took place during a time of extreme uncertainty, we did not include a requirement for actual community engagement work. And while this may seem counterintuitive, it just simply wasn't possible to place our college students with our nonprofit partners at the time. It was still when everything was very uncertain. Vaccines were not available. Testing was even somewhat difficult to come by in our area. And so just to follow all the protocols, we had to figure out how else can we engage them with the community. So instead, we had them connect with community leaders tackling the very issues that they were researching and include these insights into their final products. And then overall, student feedback was very positive about the program. There were some growing pains regarding technical issues, which we're still dealing with today. I personally made some big blunders that I learned from, and the students were very patient with me. And Ann and I felt that this program was successful because it gave students something specific to focus on, something that they had complete control over, and something that they could tailor to their interests and experiences during a pandemic. It helped them uncover their interests, they were able to share with their peers, and develop confidence. So we did get some good feedback about this. So next slide, please. I want to share a little bit more about who our first cohort was. So we had a mix. You can see on the chart on the left, it's just saying the graduation rate. So we had freshmen, sophomore, juniors, seniors, graduate students. So we had a lot of sophomores participate in this program and a lot from our IT program, which was great. We marketed this through our weekly student newsletter that gets sent out to emails, and a lot of our IT students picked up on it, which was wonderful. Along with our interior design students, business administration, and so forth. So we really did have a mix of a lot of different majors represented in our first cohort, which we really enjoyed. Next slide, please. So I wanted to share with you a couple examples of the projects that the student came up with and kind of talk you through how they came up with these ideas. So at first, the students that completed the research project portion, they often grappled with what to focus on. They would talk about their ideas during the 6-week sessions and brainstorm with us and with each other about what type of topic that they were even interested in. We then guided the students into sharpening their focus on a topic so that the scope fit the parameters of the final project. And some chose to focus on topics that they were already exploring in their major. So for example, our health sciences major chose to focus on the vaping epidemic in the area. Others chose to focus on an issue that impacted the community that they grew up in. So for example, one of our students was very passionate about law enforcement's excessive force in Los Angeles, California. So she wanted to do her research project on that. And part of the project, students had to share their aha moments throughout their experience, throughout the whole program, and answer questions such as, how do you see yourself becoming a part of the solution, and how do you plan to take action? And this, again, was hopefully momentum that we could then build on in the following semester and semesters to come to help them develop more of a social action project with our offices. So our goal was to encourage students to envision themselves as leaders in the community and playing a role in making change actually happen. Many of the students responded well to this. They expressed hope, a hope for the future, hope beyond COVID constraints. And I think they did walk away with a deeper understanding of how to make meaningful connections to topics that impacted them and that interested them. Okay, next slide, please. So I would love to hear from some of you just about the work that you're doing and how you are being creative in your collaborations across your organizations or outside of your organizations or institutions to really to address issues within sorry, Anne, I'm looking at your question. Sorry, who are you collaborating with to get the work done that you want to get done, basically? We would love to hear from you about what that looks like for you, if you wouldn't mind putting that in the chat box. Who are you collaborating with to get the work done that you really want to get done? Is one of the questions we love to ask. And, or if you're interested in talking about how are you approaching social change with your community members, whatever that community might be. So if people wouldn't mind sharing their thoughts in the chat box, I'll wait a minute for it to catch up. And I'd love to hear from you. I think my chat box might have a delay. So maybe we'll wait one more minute and see if anyone would like to share. And if not, we can go ahead and wrap up. I do want to say that I appreciate all of you being here today, taking time out of your busy schedules to listen to us about this project that we started and for putting up with our technical difficulties. And I'm not sure if you're able to see your chat box to see if anyone has entered any comments.
There's a delay for me too.
All right, then we can go ahead and go to the next slide, and we would love to hear from you. So if you have any ideas you'd love to share about ways that you are collaborating to get the work done that you want to get done and ways that you are addressing social change in your own communities, please reach out to us. Or if you have any questions about our pilot program or any components of it, we'd be happy to talk with you. My email and Anne's email are here, and we are available anytime to connect with you. So with that being said, that's the end of our presentation. I'll go ahead and I'll stay live. We have about 8 minutes left. We're hoping to have a bit of discussion, which I know can be a little difficult in this type of format. So I'll stay on. So if anyone has any questions or any feedback or comments, I'm happy to interact with you. All right, and I'm not seeing anything in the chat box. So I'll just stay live for the next couple of minutes if anyone would like to talk. I wish we could see your faces of our participants and talk with you. But I think most people have logged off, and so I think we can go ahead and close it down. Thank you for attending our Spark session. Bye, everyone.